The following report comes from anthropologist G.I. Jones.
A real American hero.
G.I. Jones. Was that creepy? It's kind of
It's a little creepy.
It's a little creepy.
Sorry.
I accept it. It is
Yeah.
black magic.
Yeah, it's okay.
G.I. Jones.
This was about a ritual killing that took place among the Basotho. Which, fair warning, today's episode we're going to go all over the world. We'll be mispronouncing African, Aztec, Greek names
butchering
and places. We're
everyone.
going to butcher it
Yep,
all.
yep.
So we're just going to get that out of the way there.
Oh, that sounded bad.
Yeah, but it is human sacrifice, so
Right.
I think it's fine.
Ooh, pun.
Yeah.
The Basotho are the people occupying the country of Lesotho, which is the dot in the middle of South Africa. If you go to your map, you'll notice there's a little country in the middle of another country.
Aw.
That's Lesotho. It was founded by the powerful chief Moshesh and managed to maintain its independence from South Africa, but was badly taken advantage of by British colonists following the chief's death in 1870. This report, made for the British government, was issued in 1949.
I have a toast to the bride.
And also the bridegroom.
Both of them? The bride and the groom?
I believe, yes.
I'll drink to that.
It was a Saturday evening. Mocheselo Kotu was drinking beer in a hut, and a wedding feast was happening outside. The chieftainess of the ward arrived at the feast with a retinue of men and spoke to the party.
I want you to kill Mochesela for me, because I want to make a medicine horn which I will use in placing of my son. Any of you who disobeys this order will be killed.
For our Basotho out there who are unsure of the word medicine horn, Lenaka is the traditional term. We just want to clear that up for any of our Lesotho listeners. Dane, who had been drinking with Mochesela, yeah, I know, we probably don't. There might be a guy.
Maybe.
Dane, who had been drinking with Mochesela, got the signal from one of the chieftainess's men. He spoke to Mochesela, fooling him into falling into a trap.
Cousin, let us go outside for a while.
Outside, the crew of men seized him. Dane threw rocks to drive off the boys attracted by the sound.
Get on out of here.
Where do you throw rocks?
Mochesela cried out to one of the men.
My father Folo, are you going to kill me? Let me free and I will give you my black ox.
I can't.
I am not your father, and I want you, not your ox.
I made it better.
This is a true story.
I made it so much
A
better.
man.
He wanted him, not his ox.
This
Not
is
his
serious
not his
business.
ox.
They took him to the outskirts of the village, where they stripped him naked, laughing literal sisters,
Maybe he did want his ox.
and pinned him to the ground. Then, by the light of an oil lamp, they began the nefarious operation.
Folo, what are you doing?
I am taking a piece of your left leg, Mochesela, and Steve here will cut from your groin, and then we'll take from the right breast and the bicep of your right arm. Dane, take the knife.
What should I do, Folo?
Cut off the face. Begin at
no.
the forehead. Cut down to the bone. Straight to the throat.
Dane, Folo!
He is dead now.
Take the throat first, and the tongue and the eyes.
They placed the organs on a cloth and gathered the blood in a can. Not so funny anymore, is
I
it?
just want
Where
to.
did Steve
Na
come
na
from?
na na na. That's all I wanted to do the whole time.
It was pretty metal.
It's pretty metal.
I thank you, my children, for having killed this man for me. I know the police will come here to investigate this matter, and no one must tell them about it. If they do, I will kill them in the same way as I have killed Mochesela. Take the body now to the house of Steve, where it will remain until Tuesday, when those of you who live near it will take it to a place where people will see it.
But House of Steve. Is that his first or his last name?
I genuinely want to know,
I know.
because he seems very out of place.
It's just Steve.
Who is
Everyone
Steve?
else's
Steve.
name is not.
Who is Steve? I think that's the question.
So you picture that, like, there's just this one guy with a pocket protector and a pair of
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got like one of
horn-rimmed
those
glasses,
He's just Steve.
just
like
hanging
weird
out.
flannels that just only
He probably
have
has-
shoulders.
One white guy in this
Yeah.
Oh,
tribe.
he probably has two first names.
He probably does.
Steve.
Yep.
Yep.
The Basotho believe that a person can only live a full life if they manage to stay in good with their ancestor spirits, or Badimo. And if you fall out of favor with the Badimo, or with a living sorcerer, a popular remedy is to consult the services of a horned doctor who practices horned medicine.
Oh.
Where does this hornedness come from, Rob?
I believe that there
is it
are
literal?
horns involved.
Do they
Okay,
have
from
horns?
ox?
Well, the people don't
But I want
have
them.
horns.
Do they put it in the horns?
Ooh.
They probably take the horns of an animal they
It's
think is sacred
also
or something.
called lanaka, which is prepared with human body parts.
Nice.
These parts must be harvested while the person is still alive,
Even nicer.
in order to maintain their vital force as an essential component of the medicine. The flesh was charred with herbs and mixed with fat to create a black ointment. It was then placed in a horn,
Yes, yes, a horn.
to be applied, as is traditional, to be applied to the patient. Traditionally, the horn was only used in times of war to protect the head chief and his warriors. But in the 1940s, the horn came to be employed by petty chiefs trying to get ahead, in part because of increased stress placed on the chiefs by colonization.
Well, that's not.
I mean, it makes
Always
sense.
comes
That would put
back
them in
to
bad
that.
standing to their ancestors. Do they live full lives?
Not if you were human sacrificed.
Right.
It used to be that they were taking the flesh from their enemies back in the day. But in the 1940s, horned doctors used the flesh of the chief's own people at his or his wife's instruction, as in the case of poor Mochacella. Today we're talking about human sacrifice.
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh God, that was the intro.
Yeah, we didn't even do it yet. That was
Wow.
how we got into this. Yeah.
Frequently, conversations about this particular topic can take on an unintentionally racist tone. So be careful.
Yes.
This is because in the bad old days of tacitly racist pop culture, human sacrifice was often incorporated into representations of non-white cultural groups, especially Africans and the native peoples of the Americas. The thing is, ritual human sacrifice has been practiced by certain African tribes as well as Mayans and Aztecs, so it's impossible to talk about human sacrifice and not give them some attention. But it has also been practiced by Europeans and the ancient ancestors of the monotheisms.
So
Yes,
many
them
Surprise.
too.
Europeans.
The question for us today, we've got you, we know, we can see you, we see you, Europeans.
Yeah.
The question for us today in this second episode of our Black Magic series is, are human sacrifices evil? The answer might seem straightforward, but the practice itself is anything but. My name is Rob C. Thompson. I am the Supreme Hierophant of the Secret Order of Alchemical Actors and Professor of Occult History and Philosophy and
Yeah, that's what you normally say.
Yeah.
things occult people do. I am here with my Grand Master, not my personal Grand Master, but the
Aw.
Alchemical Actors Grand Master.
Oh, okay.
You can be my Grand Master.
Aww. Happy October!
It is Halloween month, and Olivia has brought a special friend.
I have a new friend, and he's gonna be my personal October mascot, but also our personal.
Did you name
October.
him?
And by our,
No.
we mean you two, our
Yeah.
beloved listeners across the occult globe.
It's
The
the
occult
entire
fam.
community.
We are a community of
The
occult
occult community.
aficionados. Yeah, so tell us about this
Aw.
mascot, because this is a podcast.
And they
Brianna,
cannot
how
see
would
it.
you describe him in one word?
I think she's gonna need more than one word.
Yeah, but keep it. We gotta keep
Metal.
get going with these metals.
Metal?
pretty metal.
James?
It's
how
a
you
cat.
describe most
It's a
things.
black
It is.
cat that's like a elf on a shelf, but it's a cat instead.
There's newspaper
And it's
involved.
got newspaper.
Yeah,
wasn't
but he's
one
got
word.
a cute little
was
hat.
like
Got a
20
birthday
words.
hat.
He is very cute and Halloweeny.
Gothy a little bit with the birthday.
I was only given one word. I feel like I've
Oh,
been
sorry, right.
Well,
gypped.
Metal.
my boyfriend's afraid for us to keep him in our room sometimes, so I'm taking him out of the house occasionally.
But he
and
has
I
the
want
best
you
smile.
guys. He does have a nice smile, but I want you guys to see his nice smile. So if you look at our Instagram or our Twitter, you can see a nice little picture of him, and you guys can help us name him because I haven't named him yet.
So
Please
we're
help.
that's at Podcast Occult, and the Instagram is just you search us. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Cool. So hop on our social medias and find our cat friend, and I guess we're taking suggestions.
Help
What
us
shall we name
him.
Yeah.
our October mascot? We're also joined today by Olivia's sister, Brianna Literal,
Hey.
our resident Viking pagan.
Yeah.
Cool. Uh, who specifically asked to participate in the human
I
sacrifice
love
episode.
human sacrifice.
She's very passionate.
And to sort of lighten the mood, we have James Kaplanchis,
Hello.
who has, I hope, no special affinity for human sacrifice.
No, not particularly, but I am the captain of the table now. You
Right.
forgot to tell them about
That's
that. I have
true.
a title.
You have been elevated to
What is
captain
my
of the table.
title
That's
again?
true.
Isn't it something of the knob?
Right, it's time. We should probably give Brianna her title.
What is my title?
You are
Ooh, I'm gonna do music in the back. I always felt like we needed like
a music for the
yeah,
spooky
yeah,
music
yeah.
for
just
the
for
name.
the introductions.
Yeah, like underneath. So I'm your hype man.
You are. Does anyone remember what
The
Brianna?
I don't
Third
remember.
knob.
No,
It
it's
involves
not. It's
a
not
knob.
just the third knob. There's something
There's
there.
a title. It's
I
a
don't
thing
remember
of
what
the
it
third
is.
knob.
Oh.
Just
Give me something else. Just give something. Just
Human of the third knob.
Fine. We'll fix that
Sorry,
later.
Brianna.
We'll just for
hell,
today.
James?
She will be human of the third knob.
All
right.
Human of the third.
So spooky.
Cool. All right, let's get to it. We, the members of the
the
Secret
Secret
Order
Order
of
of
Alchemical
Alchemical
Actors,
Actors,
do
do
solemnly commit ourselves to a full and honest telling of the history of the occult as far as we know it. Our source for the story we open with and much of our discussion of Africa's human sacrificial traditions is Lawrence Mabugani and Ezekiel Yona's book, Human Sacrifice and the Supernatural in African History, which we'll link up on our website, occultconfessions.com. Times of deep stress, brought on by war, colonization, and crop failure, precipitate extreme measures. Yeah, it's scary. Extreme measures sometimes include the kind of sacrifice that killed Mochesela Koto. The more stress the tribe is under, the more extreme the sacrifices. In Lesotho, 70 people were killed for harvesting body parts between 1939 and 1948. And it finally came to a stop when 2 chiefs were executed for the killing of Maliki Natai, whose own brother had sold him away for the ritual sacrifice.
That's a lot, closer to... I thought it was going to be a long time ago. That's not that long
Yeah,
ago.
it's pretty close in
that
history.
stuff has happened pretty close
I
to
would
now.
not sell you for human sacrifice.
That's sweet.
Thanks.
You say that
Pretty
now.
sweet.
but-
I just feel like
I think that's a high compliment.
yeah.
One of the chieftains' power had a
I
lot to
feel
do
validated. Thank you.
with their ability to distribute land and determine succession, and both of these powers had to been curtailed by colonial administrators. This led chieftains to feel insecure and either perpetrate medicine murders,
What is that, Rob?
to make medicine out of your parts.
Oh, I see.
Murder to medicine.
Murder
Got it.
for or accuse each other of medicine murders in order to get ahead politically. So it'd be like, Chief James has been medicine murdering all his people, and then the colonial powers would be like, well, we're gonna
Can't do that.
He's got to go.
But I'm keeping all these other people alive.
With your murder medicine.
There's 2 sides.
Yeah.
You didn't hear my story.
This is why I'm for human sacrifice.
In Africa, where the climate is volatile and hot, sacrifice is often about attempting to appease or enlist the help of supernatural forces in order to get a stable crop. So whenever you always look at the stress point with human sacrifice, what is the thing that's most stressful for that group? So in a tribal society, in an unstable climate, it's going to be the crops. In his book, The Golden Bough, classic book of mythological stuff.
Mumbo jumbo.
No, well, okay. It has been in large part disproven at this point, yes. However, I mean, not disproven. He tells real stories from the anthropological record, and he makes interesting guesses about what it could mean. But in our paganism episode, I think we poked some holes at James Fraser. So we're just going to let him be today and let him talk about human sacrifice.
You say what you want, Fraser.
Let's hear a little bit from Fraser himself.
At Lagos in Guinea, it was the custom annually to impale a young girl alive, soon after the spring equinox, in order to secure good crops. Along with her were sacrificed sheep and goats, which, with yams, heads of maize, and plantains, were hung on stakes on each side of her. The victims were bred up for the purpose in the king's seraglio, and their minds have been so powerfully wrought upon by the fetish men that they went cheerfully to their fate.
So you really wanted to be sacrificed,
Yeah.
Fraser's saying.
How were they dressed?
Why?
I actually kind of want to know, though.
I don't think
What?
that's the point.
I don't- but-
I don't think that's the point.
I don't think
How they're
I don't
dressed.
have that information.
I don't think
this
they
didn't
were
come
dressed.
with photographs.
I don't think they would have been
I
dressed.
feel like it makes a difference if they were
this
dressed
book is
or
100
not.
I
plus
feel like
years
they
Just
were
taking
probably
a shot
naked.
in the dark.
Fraser tells a more gruesome story about the sacrifice of a stout man among the Benin.
He is seized by violence or intoxicated and taken to the fields, where he is killed amongst the wheat to serve as seed so they phrase it. After his blood has coagulated in the sun, it is burned along with the frontal bone, the flesh attached to it, and the brain. The ashes are then scattered over the ground to fertilize it. The rest of the body is eaten.
Yeesh.
So they pretty much eat most of it?
Yeah, I think very little goes to waste, like the Eskimo and the whale.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Except this is a person
that's still not good.
What's-
Yeah,
I
I
don't-
mean,
with like children and a job
yeah, I'm
But-
not saying it's good. I'm just
and a mom.
But okay, I have opinions about that. But
About mom?
no, about
leave our mom out of this.
no, I'm not talking about Annette.
Don't name drop her.
I'm sorry. No, it just like the whole
I'll have to beep that out later.
no. Just because I don't know, I don't see the big difference between sacrificing a person and any other animal. I think it's the
You don't
same.
see there's a difference.
Nope.
That's a PETA argument.
I don't see it. No. Coming from
Any of our listeners are affiliated with PETA.
Brianna's with you.
no.
She sees you.
Okay, it's like coming from a standpoint of the sacrificial like rituals that are in the past of my belief. It's pretty much the same thing.
You're
get
saying
what you're
morally it's
I don't-
okay because
I
that's
don't-
what people have been doing. and
It's just
accepted.
there's no
I don't
difference
even know if
between
it's a
doing it to
moral thing.
any other animal than a person because
Yeah.
anybody could put the same argument against another animal. It's just a
Spirit
different
is
species.
still an element.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it's in.
I don't
goats.
see how it's morally wrong to sacrifice a person based on the fact that other animals get sacrificed.
In Africa, a lot of human sacrifice revolve around making medicine. There are two kinds of medicine in African traditional practice. The first is herbal, which functions much the way Western pharmaceuticals do. So, just like headache herbs,
Stomach
Solid.
ache herbs,
things like that,
etc.
etc.
I thought you were gonna keep going.
No.
Menstrual cramp herbs,
Oh, we could.
Sore throat
we're going.
herbs.
Yeah,
sore throat herbs,
red eye herbs.
red eye herbs, flatulence herbs.
Yes. Pink eye herbs.
You're really
very
concerned,
eyes.
yeah,
About
with
the eyes.
Blue eye.
Ear
I don't
infection
know. I think
herbs?
now you flew too close to the sun because
Uh,
I think that's a thing.
sunburn herbs.
The second is supernatural, which often relies on the harvesting of human body parts. Ritual killing in Africa is not really about the killing per se. The killing is only done in the service of harvesting organs, which need not involve deaths. If you can get somebody's heart out and keep them going.
Product, not process.
For example, in Tanzania, on Africa's western coast, in May of 2008. Oh yeah, just like 10 years ago. So there you go. That's updating
It's
for you.
very recent.
Two men broke into the home of 17-year-old Vumilia McCoy while she was having dinner with her family and chopped off both of her legs above the knee.
How did her family not have anything to say about it?
I just imagine everyone was like screaming and but they had a
and they
machete.
didn't try to stop them from cutting off her
They had a
legs
machete.
at dinner.
Well, I think
Why
dinner
is dinner so
stopped.
important to you? Are you
Well, I'm just
offended?
saying, I feel
Dinner
like
must have stopped.
I feel like dinner is like there's a lot of people around, and they just let it happen.
Well, they probably tried to stop it. They probably failed. In their
I don't know,
endeavors,
like if
because
it's
her
two
legs are
men
gone.
against a
Yeah,
family.
they almost did take the legs, yes. Well, they did take the legs.
But it was two men
they
against
get
a
away
family.
with the
Like they
legs?
would have
Yeah,
to
the
get
legs
to
were
her
gone.
first.
What'd they do with the legs?
I'm concerned.
They created medicine.
Was it used well?
The previous November, in the same country, a mother and two daughters, one 10 years old and the other 18 and pregnant, were hacked to death to harvest body parts. These killings were Are you still feeling like...
Yeah, she's steaming. I can see the steam.
Still feeling like you're... Well, we'll leave that
I
open.
have a lot of things to say later. Just
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That'll be the wrap-up. These killings were part of a pattern crossing the nation that included 50 or more victims, all albinos, called 0-0 in Tanzania. So it's a kind of
that
racism.
had to be really difficult. Like,
That's crazy.
yeah.
1 in 1,429 births in Tanzania are albinos, which is actually the highest rate in
wow.
the world.
That's kind of, yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Just under 7,000 people are registered as albino in the country.
Wow.
There are varying degrees of albinism. You could lack pigmentation in just your eyes or in your eyes, skin, and hair. The usual appearance of albinos, especially albinos born to two African parents, has led to the belief that they have mind reading or black magic power. In Congo and Botswana, albino children are killed immediately or soon after
Oh,
birth.
jeez.
Right?
That's not fun.
In Burkina Faso, albinos are considered half gods and either sought after for their magic or killed. Their heads and genitals are used for making medicine. In Zimbabwe, belief that albinos can cure HIV has led to the rape of albino women
God.
and their infection with HIV. This is dark stuff. Sorry. This is warning.
Trigger warning?
No, late trigger warning. Sorry. This is not for the kids. Today's episode is not for the
This
kids.
season isn't for the kids.
There might be the occasional.
Black magic.
In Tanzania, albinos have been murdered for their body parts, which are used by miners to attempt to discover veins of gold. So there you go, James.
So they use them body parts as tools?
Like under 18.
That's what I thought. I was
You said
like,
minors and I thought under 18,
Oh,
not
oh.
like minors.
Yeah, like diggers.
So like children looking for gold. So when you asked what it was for,
Yes.
it was in order to mine for gold.
They used some girl's legs.
Well, they made
as
medicine
shovels?
out of it
Okay.
that
no.
would allow you to locate gold.
well,
So
what'd they do to? How did they use that to locate? Do they just throw
How
it
did they
around?
make the shovels?
I think
Did it
they ingest
beep?
medicine made out of the leg, and then
Is
they
it-
just
They
are
find the gold?
I have no idea how the medicine works. But now, Brianna,
Yeah.
is this all right with your moral system?
Which part?
Cutting
Oh my
off
God.
somebody's legs
Oh,
to
Brianna.
make medicine to find gold.
That's less okay because it's not for a ritual. Like, it's not like a
It's not
spiritual.
spiritual.
It's just for
it's greed based.
gold. That's
Okay, so
stupid.
we can say down with albino killers.
I
Yes.
am, yes.
Okay, we are opposed to yes.
I am
you heard it here.
opposed to albino killers.
If you want to use leg medicine to locate gold, you should use your own legs.
Yes.
You can't use
Yeah.
other people's legs.
Use your own legs for
you can't
mining
just
gold.
milk another
Okay,
person's
so-
cow.
There's a reason why it's mining. Mining has a connection with agriculture, in that it is a source of wealth and minerals, which are believed to grow in a way akin to, if not the same as, crops, minerals growing in the earth. But while farming is very dangerous, given the exigencies of the weather, mining is dangerous in and of itself.
Yeah.
So miners are frequently trapped or killed by mine walls caving in, and mining is generally hazardous to the health of miners for the people who mine.
Thank you.
Also children, if they happen to be in those mines. Keep your
Yeah,
children
you're
out of the
right.
mines. Hazardous to the health of the miners for the dust generated by the drilling and the chemicals used to extract the gold, which can include deadly poisons like arsenic. Fun fact, that's what arsenic is for. Use it to extract gold.
Solid.
By January 2009, 173 people had been arrested in connection with albino ritual killings and assaults in Tanzania.
How many?
173.
That's
What
an
in the
alarming
hell?
amount.
We sort of already broached this with Brianna, but how evil, on a scale of not evil to very evil, are African medicine killings?
Depends on what the killing.
Developing some criteria here.
I'm gonna pull the trigger and say 10.
10, very
Out of-
evil.
From little evil to very
Yeah.
evil to 10.
Because it's like racist evil. They're targeting albinos. They're trying to get gold
Yeah.
out of the ground. But
Not
Brianna,
cool.
on the Brianna scale, there are some of these. Maybe our
It's-
first ritual killing you might have been all right with.
Yeah. It was like it got weird around like the AIDS part, the rape part. That
You don't
was
like that
weird.
stuff.
I don't like that.
Good,
And
okay.
then the for really stupid reasons.
So if it's to appease the gods, you're open to it.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we get there. Let's go to the Aztecs, shall we?
Yeah.
The Aztecs.
The Aztecs. Dun dun dun.
Thank you, James.
Does anyone else have a sound effect they want to throw in before
I can't possibly.
We're just going to let that do.
I'll wait for my next metal moment.
Eat that mic.
You gotta eat that
Eat
mic.
them.
Eat the mic.
You always lean back. That's
I
the
gotta.
problem.
I'm just so chill.
I know, you're too chill. You gotta
You're
get
hanging.
too chill for.
The Aztec
Goodness gracious.
The Aztec Okpanitztl
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
festival was held every autumn in the empire's central city, Tenochtitlan.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that. Yeah, is that how it is?
I think I've heard.
Tenochtitlan.
Tenochtitlan.
Yeah.
Which is roughly the downtown area of Mexico City. Major festivals were a monthly affair for the Aztec people and totaled up to 18 festivals a year, since the Aztec month was only 20 days long. More months, more festivals.
Woo.
The Okpanitztl festival was held in honor of Toki, the mother goddess, patron of fertility and sex. That's Toki.
Toki, the fertility lady.
Hooray. She was also the patron of midwives, prostitutes, adulterers, and sodomites. Because
Wow.
they need a patron too.
They do.
That's pretty progressive.
Right.
Yeah.
As well as weavers.
Progressive.
What's a weaver? Like a basket weaver?
Yeah.
So any kind of penetration. Just any kind of interwovenness of any kind.
Topi.
Did you just want to use the word
covers it all.
penetration? Is
No,
that why
I'm
you
just trying
said
to get
that?
this right.
I'm not
Toki.
sure that that's the logic of it, James, but I'm delighted that you feel that basket weaving is an act of penetration.
Yes.
James stays away from all basket weaving.
The festival began. The festival began with 8 days of dancing and 4 days of fasting.
Nice.
Ooh wee.
Wait, they fasted after they danced all that much?
Seems
Yeah.
to take a dangerous prospect, but
I feel like it'd be dangerous to do it the other way.
I feel like either way it's pretty dangerous.
I'd
you-
rather dance than fast.
Dance than fast, if you had to choose. But all
I don't
the
know,
act
you're
of
so tired. You need...
well,
But,
but you're making contact with the gods. You're having
It's a
supernatural-
festival.
You're-
Cheer
and
up.
I'm just worried that you're gonna die from exhaustion.
It doesn't matter. The Aztecs will just sacrifice you. Then a mock battle was held between midwives wielding bloody brooms
Oh my god, this is amazing.
What?
Na 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 na.
and warriors wielding whatever it is warriors wielded.
Wait, no,
That's so
I
metal, the midwives. I
only
love
care
them.
about the
They're
midwives.
so metal. I'm down.
Because they would sweep up the blood after you gave birth, I'm guessing.
And then
Right?
they just like...
Beat each other with them?
Then they would have bloody brooms to use in the mock battle.
This is
I
the
love
most
every 18
exciting
months.
thing.
That's amazing.
This is
Very
Someone
great.
was ritually dressed like the goddess Toki, and then sacrifice flayed and posted at the gates of the city.
nice.
There was a bloody bundle of straw laid at her feet, wrapped in the skins of the goddess's various effigies which had been placed up around the area. There she stands, to purge the city's filth and protect it against intruders for the year. Aztecs are probably the most famous for their human sacrifices and may have been the most prolific cultures as far as ritual sacrifice is concerned. Estimates for the total number of sacrifices the Aztecs carried out vary. Roughly 1% of the population of
Tenochtitlan.
delightful, were sacrificed each year, and several thousand people out of roughly 250,000. Between 1 and 5 were generally sacrificed at around 87 rituals held throughout the year. Yeah, they keep you busy.
Nice.
Wow.
But these rituals may have been held at various places throughout the city, and some rituals may have involved larger sacrifices and may have included non-Aztecs among the sacrificial offerings. In the case of a special occasion like the dedication of the Templo Mayor, the great big temple, at the center of...
Tenochtitlan. Chitlan. Hey, I tried my
Shitlan.
best, guys.
There may have been more than 10,000 people ritually murdered for this single occasion.
Wow.
It happens.
Too many.
Victims were Aztecs as well as rival warriors, and Aztecs themselves could become victims of other tribes who shared their religious ideology. According to the mythology of the Aztec system, sacrificial victims nourished the gods and were part of a ritual cycle. The creator gods had let blood to humans in this.
So the gods spent blood to create humans, so now they need blood back to create more humans. Is that the kind of...
Yes, yeah,
The
they
fertility cycle.
let them have the blood, and we are the Aztecs are the 5th generation of humanity, and they have to repay the blood debt through sacrifice.
Makes sense.
Okay.
And
That's
that
why
brings-
the fertility is so important to them, to bring more people in. We need to spend blood
Oh,
to get blood.
God. That's such a dark, like...
So that brings us to our brief history.
Great, time to butcher this. A brief history of creation according to Aztec mythology. The Aztec creation story involves a rivalry between 4 gods, the children of the self-creating god Amechtuli
Delightful.
Almec.
Yes. Yeah.
and Amechicala.
No, well, that's
That's
just
that's the-
2 different ways to
Right,
pronounce
right,
the name.
well,
So you
okay.
just did yourself a disservice.
Well, I just wanted to be thoroughly butchering, you know?
Carry on.
The self-creating god of 2 aspects brought him and herself into being, and because the god's dual nature being both chaos and order, God and evil, male and female, the god was able to bear children.
Yeah, because it was lady god and man god, so that
We
she
could just...
Makes it easy.
humped herself
Yeah.
into
Fertilized
being,
her own fields.
and
if
then
you know what I
right,
mean.
yeah, that's what happened.
Ooh.
Sowed those oats, and then there were 4 gods.
They had 4 children,
Uh-huh.
one for each of the cardinal directions, and the 4 children then proceeded to do the work of creation. They created a great sea monster, Kapactali, but she kept eating the other creations, and so they went to war and pulled her in 4 directions, creating the world as we know it.
Right, so we're all living on a sea monster.
That's really
Well,
cool.
the
pretty
sea
metal.
monster's corpse.
Yeah, dead sea monster. Right, so we
Stretched
shouldn't have
out
to worry
corpse.
about that. Oh, you wanted to worry about it, Brianna?
No, I just wanted it to be alive.
Over 5 ages, the gods competed to become the world's sun. Tezcatlipoca.
Call him Tez, brother
Tez.
god number 1.
Yeah. Tez, god of night and rival of the better-known winged serpent god Quetzalcoatl.
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 Quetzalcoatl. He's a famous guy.
Ketz?
Okay.
Well, Ketz took a crack at it at first, but Tez wasn't having it and knocked him from the sky. So he turned into a jaguar and destroyed the world. Tez took his turn as the sun, but the great paw of the jaguar knocked him from the sky, raising a wind that destroyed the world for a second time.
So both brothers had a try at the sun.
And they ruined each other's attempts.
Yep.
Great. The gods next elected Tlaloc to give it a try, but Kez didn't like that either and caused the fire to rain down, destroying the earth for a third time.
Yep. 3 gods, 3 destructions.
Wow. Then Ketz chose Tlaloc's sister, Kalaktichulikaku.
Chal.
Goddess of the water, to become the sun, but fighting with his brother Tez, they ended up knocking her from the sky, causing a great flood and destroying the world again.
They understand they need a son, but they keep
Knocking
it down.
I don't think they did it intentionally that time. They were like, "You, water sister, you can be the sun," which makes a lot of sense to us.
Right.
And then they just kept arm wrestling, and they're huge, so they just oops.
Finally, the humble god full of sores, Nenatuzen.
Nan.
Sounds like
Man.
a champion.
I feel like he has to be humble if he's got sores everywhere.
Right,
Right.
he's the god of sores.
Well, he offered to serve as the sun. Tez said he would be better suited. The gods built a fire, and the proud Tez nervously held back. Nan bravely jumped in, and Tez, filled with a jealous rage, jumped after him. Now there were 2 suns, which were too bright and too hot for the earth. That would be awful if we had 2 suns.
Right.
Yeah.
I hate even summer. Just
I hate
It'd be
one sun.
twice as much summer.
And so the gods, anxious to solve the problem, tossed a rabbit at Tez, dimming him so that he could become the moon.
Yeah, if anyone's ever getting too full of themselves,
Just
throw a
throw a
rabbit
rabbit.
A whole rabbit.
smack them with a rabbit.
can't have a good day after that.
Right. I mean, that'll take them down a peg.
Or could you?
But Nan was weak. He was motionless, so the other gods gave their blood to give him the energy to rush across the sky. And that's a brief history of creation according to Aztec mythology.
Good, and we saw in the end there kind of some of that blood stuff.
Yeah, that's
Blood
that,
kind
there's
of-
your
Right,
connection.
that's how
Praise the
they
God.
must.
So yeah, there was a method to the madness here. Something like we were just talking about all kinds of crazy god behavior.
I just
But
thought
in
they
fact-
were bored.
It's the mythological explanation for why we need human sacrifice.
Right.
Yep.
To keep the god of sores in the sky.
Which is kind of gross.
Many victims were honored and glorified as part of an anonymous group, but some were accorded special honor and treated particularly well in the months before their sacrifice. They were given a special place in paradise for their sacrifice, and we should think of them less like victims and more like the Christians tend to regard their martyrs.
Oh,
So
like in
per-
El Dorado.
Participants, rather. than
Yeah, they were
victims.
participants. Here, Brianna's point is well taken.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ritual practice of Aztec sacrifice is probably Brianna's point that human sacrifice is cool and fun for children of all ages.
I'm just saying that they didn't end up sacrificing
El
them
Dorado
if
is
you
pretty
watch
great.
the movie.
Yeah, the
Well, they-
stars.
they do
not
here.
aligned. Can't do it.
Yeah.
But they really do. They do here. This time they'll do it because it's not a cartoon for children.
Yeah.
The ritual practice of it, but children are watching. The Aztecs were
Just
hardcore.
have your kids watch the movie.
The ritual practice of Aztec sacrifice is probably the most well-known of the practices we're discussing today. Victims mounted the pyramid in a line, were thrown on their back on a sacrificial stone, and their hearts were torn out by the priest. The corpses were then rolled back down the pyramid steps, because there's 10,000 of them to do, so we have to keep this moving.
Na 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 na.
Consent of the victims was a non-issue in the case of captives who were generally warriors. Ixiptla, or impersonators of the gods, were a more complex case. One impersonator of Tez wandered the city for a year, and none could refuse his requests.
That's awesome.
Well, because he was playing the god, right, ritually. He had servants, he had several wives, and at the end of that year, he chose himself when to mount the temple steps and submit to his sacrifice.
Well, that's kind of like with Norse stuff. You're born for a specific sacrifice. There's this one sacrifice that happens like every 9 years or whatever. And so like 9 people every year.
Is it every 9 years or every 9 years or whatever?
It's
So
Like
like
every
9
9
years
years.
pass, someone's getting really nervous.
9 is the magic
and the
number
priest
in
is
Norse
like,
mythology.
no, it's like whatever. Like it doesn't have to be 9 years.
Well, no, people are born for it, and they're not necessarily 9 years from when they're born going to be chosen for it. It's just like within the village has a bunch of people, and they get picked for it. But you could be a child, or you could be a really old
But there's
person.
some birthright that makes
And-
you part of the pool that we'll draw.
and it's
on.
kind of like a gateway straight to the good afterlives, because it's an honorable death.
As long as they're rich people being killed, I'm for it.
I don't think there's really...
No, that's not true. That's not what I meant.
I think you're like,
That's
like
not.
rich for James is
I just
starting
don't
a
want them-
class war here
I
on
don't want
Occult
them
Confessions.
sacrificing poor people who don't have a say about it.
What about poor people who do have a say about it?
Or rich people who don't.
I think consent is the key word here.
Okay,
Make a
consent.
lot of political...
So we're
comments.
apparently in favor of consensual human sacrifice. I'm not saying that
Oh,
officially.
I definitely am.
I'm going to have to consult our legal team on this. Various forms of sacrifice were central to Aztec life. Sacrificial rites were held roughly every 4 days, and ordinary men and women participated by piercing their tongues, their ears, and their genitals.
It's gonna be a no for me.
Makes sense.
No genital piercings for you?
Oh.
No piercings.
Fair
for
enough.
me.
Oh, I just... I'm so fine with it.
Whatever, yeah. You pierce what you got to pierce.
I already have 9, so
Well, we'll
let's go.
double down on you since Olivia's backing
Yeah.
out.
Good.
For ritual bloodletting. So you would pierce in part to get some of that ritual blood. In the same spirit of appeasing the gods who had given their blood for humans. All men were warriors and prepared to die in battle or on a rival's sacrificial stone, and many crimes were also punishable by death. Murder, theft, adultery, dereliction of duty.
Dereliction is just avoidance, like not doing
Like
it.
if I decided to skip a class one day, they would take me out
so
back
it's
and
like
murder
being
me.
like, well, I don't feel like fighting this fight. I'm gonna head out.
Yep, they would just kill you.
Yeah,
I think
like, what
it's
are you doing?
interesting that it can be used as a punishment, but also not a punishment.
Yeah.
As like an honor, but also a punishment.
It depends on the ritual, I guess.
I just think
Yeah.
it's interesting that they can use the same. It's just interesting.
The Aztecs valued industry and frugality. Sound a little bit like Protestants. Self-deprivation, discipline, and courtesy. Now they sound like Puritans. Sacrifices were not about hatred, but rather honored the victim in life and glorified them in death. Let's actually, to Brianna's point, let's compare this to the brutal executions carried out by the Romans in the Colosseum, or perpetrated by the Spanish, right, during the various Inquisitions. The so-called civilized people who colonized and destroyed the Aztecs, right? The Spanish are the civilized colonizers driving these heathens out of existence because they're doing this thing. But the Spanish themselves were murdering Jews and Muslims just for kicks.
Yeah.
The persecution-obsessed Spanish killed out of racial and religious loathing. But we can't say that of the Aztecs, right? There's plenty of opportunity for honorable death, as James is suggesting here. So that's Aztecs. That's the Aztec. Close the book on that one and move on.
Oh, I liked them.
Yeah.
But
Bye,
we're going-
Aztecs.
We're going to the Mediterranean, James.
Ooh,
Home of your ancestors.
Yeah.
delicious.
Delicious.
The Greeks.
The Greeks.
The Greeks. Those are my favorite ancestors that I
Back
have.
to the Greeks. On the Mediterranean, we see the overlap of two very similar but distinct cultural groups, the proto-monotheistic Jews and the pagan Greeks and Romans.
Ooh, all great. I like them all. I'm proud
To like all of them, to be
Yes.
among them.
to be among them.
Of these people. The Old Testament mentions human sacrifice in a couple of contexts. First, we have the sacrifice of the firstborn. The God of the Israelites sends a plague through Egypt that kills the firstborn, right? We thought the Christians were off the hook here, but no.
Never.
Yeah, angry Old Testament God rages through Egypt, killing the firstborn. The Jews are spared by painting blood on their doors, the animal sacrifice, right?
Yes.
Then we have God's request that Abraham sacrifice his son Isaac. Abraham brings his son up the mountain and is about to stab him when God stops him and says, "Never mind."
That is literally one of the stories that made me a non-believer.
Ouch. But a believer in other things,
Yeah.
which is the most important thing here in Occult Confessions, that you believe in something.
Aw.
So God says, never mind, don't kill your son, kill a lamb instead. Ritual sacrifice of children was not actually very common among the Mediterranean's ancient cultures, despite what the Bible would have us believe. However, it was practiced. Jewish kings, pagan kings they warred with, would sacrifice their children to appease the gods in times of crisis, not unlike the African practice of human sacrifice. When we're in dire straits agriculturally, or, I don't know, with our gold mine, that's when we resort to human sacrifice.
Less mouths to feed.
Ouch. This often took place in times of war. I don't know. There's some kind of dark logic to that, James. I'll give you that.
Thanks.
There's pretty much nothing we
Yeah,
can
no,
say in this
that's-
episode that isn't a little ouch.
Yeah.
The most famous example of this kind of sacrifice is the mythological story of Iphigenia. Leading up to the mythical Battle of Troy, the armies of Greece had gathered on the shore, waiting to set sail to sack their rival city and destroy it, so that the mighty king Menelaus could have his revenge on Paris and take back his wife Helen.
I am so excited.
We don't have any time to, just give you all the deets on this story, so, Google it.
You should.
Yeah, it's really cool.
If you don't know about the battles of Troy and stuff, they're fun.
Watch Troy.
Ooh, is it really the Canet?
I haven't seen it.
So no promises
We do
that
not
Troy
endorse Troy.
actually tells you this story. But the winds wouldn't read what's it? The Iliad.
Yeah.
But the winds wouldn't. Okay, you can. But the winds wouldn't come to carry the ships across the Mediterranean Sea. So there the Greeks are, waiting to murder all those Trojans, and their boats won't go anywhere because we need some wind.
Anticlimactic much.
Right? There's a lot of waiting around in the whole Trojan War story. You wait on the beach for the Trojans to let you in.
Isn't that just war?
I guess, yeah. Anyway. The prophet Calphas told the mighty general Agamemnon, brother of Menelaus, and commander of the Greek forces, because Menelaus, while he was mad about the whole wife thing, is not as good at commanding Greek forces as Agamemnon. If he wants the wind to blow, says Calphas, he has to sacrifice his daughter, Iphigenia, to the goddess Artemis, with the bow and arrow and stuff.
His wife's gonna be pissed.
He called for a very long time. He called for her to come on the pretense of wedding her to the war hero Achilles. But his plan was never to marry her off, but rather to sacrifice her to the gods so that the Greeks might set sail.
Achilles is gonna be mad.
Was
Everybody's
he,
so many
was
mad,
he
yeah.
promised also?
the drama.
The
Oh yeah,
marriage?
Achilles.
Yeah.
That was a total confusing thing. Yeah,
Oh,
he
I
thought
thought that the dad was just like, "You're gonna marry Achilles," and then she
Cut
like
that too.
showed up, and she's
That's
like,
what I thought.
"Where's
Where's
Achilles?"
Agamemnon. Let's hear from you.
I am ashamed to weep, nor less, poor wretch, to check my tears at the awful pass to which I am brought. What am I to tell my wife? How shall I welcome her? With what face meet her? For she too has undone me by coming uninvited in this my hour of sorrow. Yet it was natural for her to come with her daughter to prepare the bride and perform the fondest duties, where she will discover my villainy. And for this poor virgin, why must she be a virgin? Death will soon make her his bride. I can hear her voice pleading with me. My father, will you murder me? Let that be the wedding you find for yourself, you and whoever you call friend.
That was intense. I wept a little.
Yeah, I peed a little. I'm a little overhydrated.
I don't know what that means.
I drank too much water over
See-
the course of the day, like
So
way too
You
much.
could die from that.
It causes you to pee when you're sad.
Yeah, I
Well,
was
when
about
I-
to say that.
If
makes
you've
you-
noticed, I haven't got up in a while.
Although Agamemnon regrets his decision, Iphigenia boldly offers herself so that the army can depart. So it
That
turns out
was
that she...
very generous of her.
Yeah, she's like, you can kill me. Clytemnestra, her mother, bitter over Dad's deceit at taking and killing her child,
Told you.
will go on to betray Agamemnon by taking another lover while he is away fighting, and then murder him in his own bathtub when he returns from winning the war.
It's the worst way to die.
It's so metal.
But Iphigenia doesn't die. At the last minute, the virgin goddess of the hunt, Artemis, swoops in and substitutes a deer in her place and spirits her off. This is important because, historically, the children of kings were substituted for the children of poorer, lesser people. Sorry, James. So rich children would be subbed out for poor children.
Right, that's not cool, guys.
And eventually, animals were substituted for humans. Sorry, Brianna.
Yeah, it's still not cool.
Darn.
Deer are neat.
We see the same thing with Abraham and Isaac. Sorry, Olivia.
No,
I'm just.
Yeah, lambs are cool. I mean, they're delicious.
But I'm saying, if you're gonna have someone sacrificed, follow through.
In substitute, so the best sacrifice is this child of a king, right? So we have to we keep substituting, getting further away from that sacrifice. Your Marxism aside, James, ritually. child of a king. In substitute king rituals, which were practiced by the Sargonids and the Hittites, my favorite tights, about 700 years before the Common Era, a person...
It just hit him.
A person would assimilate any force threatening the king, and then, through ritual killing, bring those forces down into the underworld, thereby saving the king from them. In various ancient cultures, the lunar or solar eclipse foretold the death of the king. To avoid death, the king would temporarily abdicate the throne. The chief exorcist would select a prisoner of war or a criminal for the role. So
To be king?
yes.
To die.
Yeah, because the eclipse is like the king must die. So the king's like, oh no, I don't want the gods to come and murder me. So he would like go underground, and he would stick
That's so stupid.
No, it's
like a
really
petty
smart.
thief in his place.
No, it's not. It's the gods. They're not gonna be like, oh, this fake guy's totally
Can't
the
see
king.
him.
Can't see him. He's underground.
The real
I've been
king-
bamboozled. Like, no.
The real king actually continued to run the whole government while underground while performing purification rites. So he's performing rites to the gods,
He's so angry.
who I guess know he's there, and everyone had to call him Farmer.
I can't.
It's a fun little game.
I'm so angry.
Yeah, rather than king.
Role playing.
Yeah. Oh, your mighty
Farmer.
farmerness. Your royal farmerness.
My farmer.
Then, my farmer. Then they killed the substitute king and burned all his substitute royal props, like his substitute table and his substitute scepter, and they buried him with royal honors, as if he were the king.
Wow.
I thought the whole thing was that he was gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
Why'd they take it upon themselves to kill him?
So they can get around it.
Okay, I see.
So it'll make the moon happy.
Gotta make that moon happy.
The Hittites would send a woman substituting for the king along with several rams into enemy territory in order to carry evil forces away, aka the scapegoat.
Oh my god.
Scapegoats.
Olivia, I think, just had like a self-realization.
Why am I even going
don't
to
know.
college?
Scapegoats in the form of humans or actual goats could also be murdered in this fashion. A twist on the scapegoat. You mean I'm cheaper than college?
This is way cheaper than college.
Way cheaper. And there are people across our great nation and well into the Western world who are listening to us for free.
And the Great White North.
You know, speaking
And
of
if you
that,
donate to our
Patreon could use $1 or so a month, just because of the value of the education you are all receiving here
Or a
with me.
peso or a euro.
Whatever you got, we will take the peso, the euro, the Canadian dollar,
Take it all.
the American dollar. We will take any of those. A twist on the scapegoat, reflected in Greek mythology, is the sacrifice as tribute. The mythological jerk Ajax, my least favorite mythological character, was supposed to have broken into the temple of Athena during the conquest of Troy and raped the prophet Cassandra. So he's rightfully my least favorite mythological character. This
He is
myth,
a jerk.
He's a jerk. This myth spawned the actual historical tradition among the people of Locris, where Ajax had been king, of sending girls to Troy as tribute in repayment for his crime. It's possible that these girls were lapidated, which is the fancy word for stoned to death.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not
Isn't
fun.
that cool?
That
I mean,
is
it's
pretty
not cool.
awesome.
It's
That's
not
cool.
cool, but the word is super
It's
cool.
pretty.
It's a cool word to have at your disposal.
Cool.
Lapidated.
What was it?
Not cool to be lapidated or to
Lapidated.
lapidate another person. It's more likely, however, that they served as priestesses to Athena for the year before coming back home safe and sound.
Oh.
So they didn't really get lapidated.
Oh,
We just
it
said
was
we
fake?
lapidated them, and then we let them be priestesses and sent them home.
They just wanted to say the word.
There are two much more famous myths. It's true, I did. There are two much more famous myths of tribute. The first is the Minotaur, housed in a labyrinth of Cretan kenosis. Yes?
Conocis.
Delightful. You're making that up.
Yep.
Okay. Boys and girls are sent every year for the Minotaur to devour until Theseus manages to slay the monster. The one we want to dive into, though, is the second story. It's the story of Andromeda. I love this story. The story begins with a queen, as all good stories must.
Queens are scary.
This queen goes by the name of Cassiopeia. She's bragging about her daughter, which is generally a healthy thing to do, but within limits.
My daughter is hot. Crazy hot. Like the sexiest girl in all of Greece. You know what? She's sexier than those water nymphs who everybody says are so sexy. What are they called again?
Isn't this kind of a weird way to be talking about your daughter?
Whatever, prude. Execute this woman at once, somebody! No! Wait, before you take her, do you know who I'm talking about? They helped out the Argonauts with that whole golden wool situation. They're water nymphs in the ocean.
The Nereids.
Right, she's hotter than those Nereids. You can kill her now.
Meanwhile, deep under the sea.
Poseidon, your sea godliness.
Yes, Nereids.
We're super sexy, right?
The sexiest.
But what if someone said we weren't the sexiest?
They'd be lying.
But would you mess them up?
Probably.
But, like, probably definitely? Because we'd be really grateful if you would. Because that would be the kind of thing a god would do who likes to cavort around with us and have a cavorting good time. Because you're our favoriteest sea god, the briniest of the briny, and the godliest.
Alright.
Well, I heard Aeolus telling one of his river spirits that an oracle told him that Cepheus was nervous because his wife, Cassiopeia, said her daughter Andromeda had better curves than us. And a tighter butt.
Blasphemy! I will send the sea monster Cetus to destroy their entire nation.
That's a perfectly proportionate response.
Back at the palace of Cassiopeia and Cepheus.
Oracle.
Yes, King.
My wife said my daughter was hot, and now there's a sea monster rampaging around the countryside, messing up all our stuff.
What if you just feed your daughter to the sea monster?
Sounds reasonable.
We can chain her to that rock.
Oh, woe is me! The giant ugly sea monster is snapping his nasty jaws at me to eat me, and not in a pleasing way. And all because I'm insanely beautiful.
Roar! I'm going to eat you.
I won't allow it.
Look! It's a man on a horse holding Medusa's head! Weird, but seems like it could be good.
Gaze upon the Gorgon's head and perish, sea monster.
Roar! I'm turned to stone. Ow.
Sexy Andromeda, I would never allow you to be eaten in any but a pleasing way.
Oh, Perseus, my hero.
Human sacrifice was a rare part of actual life, but an important part of the mythology of the Greeks and the Jews. However, animal sacrifice was fairly common in both traditions. Jews sacrificed at the temple, and the cost of paying for these sacrifices, which only ever fed the priests, was part of what inspired Jesus of Nazareth to start a reform movement against the wealthy priesthood. Jesus of Nazareth put an end to sacrifice through his self-sacrifice on the cross.
That's right.
But that didn't spell the end of violence among the Christians. In fact, Jesus' example made self-sacrifice, which they reframed as martyrdom, a major feature of the early church. In the year 36, St. Stephen, the proto-martyr, or the first Christian martyr, it's a pretty cool title, proto-martyr.
Proto-martyr.
Was dragged before the Sanhedrin or court of Jewish elders, accused of declaring that Jesus would destroy the temple at Jerusalem and that he had reformed the law of Moses. Under threat of execution, Stephen doubled down, giving a fiery speech that inflamed the crowd, who became enraged and dragged him out of the city to stone him to death. Stephen prayed for his murderers as he died, and declared a vision of Jesus welcoming him into heaven. Watching all of this unfold was the soon-to-be Apostle Paul, who was going by Saul at the time. The joy with which Christians welcomed their execution, first established by Stephen, was a significant means for winning converts and separating Christianity from other messianic movements at the time. And so we see human sacrifice coming full circle.
Yeah, from the house of Steve to Saint Stephen.
From the house of
It all
Steve
comes together. Literally full circle.
in Lesotho to Saint Stephen
Steve to Steve.
in Israel.
Israel.
So what do we say? Human sacrifice, evil or not so evil?
Consent, man.
I'd say that it's definitely on a spectrum.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's no clear-cut lines.
Yeah.
But I feel like in certain cultures and certain contexts, it can be not so evil. But most of the time, it can be very evil, especially of late. In recent times, it seems to have been
Okay,
pretty
so
evil.
we're definitely against the albino sacrifices in
Yes.
Tanzania. Okay.
Not
I
cool.
mean, blood magic has merits throughout,
Yeah.
like, so much that to me, like, self-sacrifice, or not self-sacrifice.
like self-mutilation.
Yeah, or even of other people,
Yeah.
but under, like, consent.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. But to me, would it even have power if it's not consent? But I guess that depends
It
religiously.
depends on
Yeah.
what's happening.
I just think that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, we're sort of up against some interesting ideas here, and hopefully we won't be receiving any hate mail for today's episode.
For me opening with, I am for human sacrifice.
My sister is not sacrificing people.
Consent is certainly important,
No.
and self-mutilation for religious purposes is certainly different than self-mutilation for because of psychological problems and that sort of thing. So we want to make that caveat. But in this Black Magic series, it's gonna get real sometimes. It just has to.
Black magic.
Speaking of which, our next episode will cover the infamous child murderer of medieval France, Gilles de Rais, who we mentioned for a little bit. We talked about for a little while in our Joan of Arc episode. He was a compatriot of Joan of Arc's, but we missed all of the depth of his story. Yeah. So we're going to get into one of the most infamous child sacrificers, or alleged child sacrificers.
Sad to say.
Some conspiracies in the midst here.
There's a lot of conspiracies
in Western
all
history
over this.
on our next episode. So Olivia, let's bring it on home.
I hereby adjourn and declare closed this meeting of the Secret Order of Alchemical Actors until such a time as we get together and do it again.
That's the best you've ever done that.
Yeah, it really is.
Congratulations.
I wasn't even really paying attention.
I think that's the trick.
Yeah.
You heard it here, guys. Don't pay attention. That's the trick.
Yep.
Okay, so once again, we want to encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, to find us on Facebook for our kitten contest.
Don't call him a kitten. He's
cat-
a full-grown
cat.
Cat contest, or just cat thing.
He's got all of his
It's not really a
teeth.
contest.
It's like a cat elf on a shelf.
Name the cat.
Name the cat.
And
Cat on a
we.
bat.
Name the cat. Name the cat. Oh.
I just want to say we're the audience is slowly growing for us, and we're thrilled to have an audience across all of the different platforms where we're publishing episodes. But if you are enjoying these episodes, be a friend and tell a friend. Let them know how much fun you're having listening and how much you're learning about the occult and the Western world, and explain to them what occultism is and maybe what a podcast is, and then invite them on down to have a listen to us, because this is free.
Yep.
And we would love to begin growing that listener base, and continue to grow the listener base, which really does depend on at least in part, on some word of mouth.
Yes, please. Word of mouth each other.
Word all of the mouth.
All right,
Or
so
mouth all of the word?
Yes.
Either one. Do both.
let me tear through all the various human beings who were involved in the making of this epic episode. Our actors today included, and were limited to, Jacob Wheatley, Lucy Bond, Shannon Landers, Savannah Verrett, John Cook, Sean Priest, Ray Candela, and Morgan Jung. Joining us in conversation today, we
right.
had James Kaplangis,
Farewell, folks.
Brianna Litteral,
Sacrifice safely.
and
No.
we are not responsible for any sacrifices that you or anyone you know may perform.
Not necessarily people.
That alliteration was nice, though.
Olivia
was.
Litteral, our Grandmaster.
I'm not sacrificing anyone.
My name is Rob, also not sacrificing anyone. We look forward to speaking with you next time for our big episode on Gilles de Rais, the third episode of our Black Magic series.
Magic.
Say goodbye, team.
Bye.